Hello everyone. We're going to be looking at parabolas today and revisiting our factoring methods from grade 10, combining the two to help us out understand how to graph a parabola. So again, our parabola is often in that form ax squared plus bx plus c, which looks exactly identical to a trinomial from grade 10. We know three types of trinomials: simple, complex, and perfect, and should be able to factor them all. What we want to do is, if we see it in this form equal to y, it should make sense that we'd want to factor it. The question becomes, what do we do with the factors? So I've got an example here, 2x squared plus 6x plus 4. I'm going to go ahead and factor that. I will notice, first of all, though, that the a value, the piece with the x squared, is positive, so this does open upwards. I factor it into x plus 1 times x plus 2. On the x-axis, all values of y are equal to 0. So the idea is the 2 times the x plus 1 times the x plus 2, one of these pieces has to be a 0 in order for me to get a point on the x-axis. So essentially, I'm looking at opposite values. If I plug in a -1 plus 1 is 0, or -2 plus 2 is 0. I plot these two dots. I know the vertex is at the in-between point of these two dots, the average, so I'm adding those two and dividing by 2. I'm finding the y value by plugging that x average into the equation, and I then draw my rough parabola going through those 2 points from the factored form and the vertex that I was able to just find out. Please note, for all parabolas, the domain, they open forever sideways. X is an element of all real numbers. And the range is always going to depend on whether it's opening up or down. In this case, it was opening up. So we write down y is greater than or equal to that -0.5. So suppose we see a graph and we want to figure out the equation from the graph that we see. Here I've got 5 points. They go through 0 and 4 on the x-axis. The parabola opens downwards. Since the parabola goes through 0 and 4, we know that we can write down an x minus 0 and an x minus 4, because x is equal to 0 and x is equal to plus 4. Remember, I just talked about changing the signs. To find the a value, all we're going to do is pick a point that you know that's on the curve and plug it into the equation. You can't use one of the zeros. You have to use something else. So I'm going to use the point 1, 3. I plug it in, and I'm then able to solve for my a value. And I find out here my a value is equal to a -1. So my equation would be y equals a -1 times x minus 0 times x minus 4. And then, of course, I could multiply this out, rainbow effect, and come up with an answer of -x squared plus 4x. I have just a few homework questions for you. They're based on these two questions that we just went over. They're on page 391, numbers 1, 3, 4. And number 4 we'll do A, B, and C. And 11. All right. That's it. See you on Wednesday.